President Buhari gives 3 months for reform of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigeria Police.
Federal civil service pensioners appeal for inclusion in implementation of new minimum wage.
Nigerian mission in New York makes final preparations for election of President of the 74th UN General Assembly.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall take a look at the message and lessons of Eid-el-Fitr.
After 29 days of fasting, the sighting of the moon signifies the end of the Ramadan fast for all Muslims across the globe.
That's right, Kirian. Ramadan, which began on the 6th of May this year, is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, an obligation to be fulfilled by all adult Muslims, except, of course, in special circumstances.
Right there, Kingsley, you know, the month of Ramadan is one of the most holy, if not the holiest, of the blessed months in the Islamic calendar. It ends with Thanksgiving after a successful fast with the Eid-el-Fitr celebration, which is being marked today.
Absolutely, Kirian. But it is interesting to note that Muslims in Mali were the first, according to reports, in Africa to end Ramadan. They started their celebration of Eid-el-Fitr on Monday, that was yesterday, June the 3rd, after reports of moon sighting from different parts of that country.
You know, the case of Mali is not too surprising, given that the Malians were the first to start fasting on May 5th, one day before the majority of Muslims across the world started.
Well, the Ramadan is now over, and it's time for celebration and Thanksgiving, of course, and that obviously has started with the 2-day holiday declared by the federal government of Nigeria to allow Muslims across the country the opportunity to celebrate with their loved ones, well-wishers, and friends. So, at the end now of the 29-day fast, what is the impact of Ramadan on Muslims in the country and indeed across the world? What message and in particular what lesson does Eid-el-Fitr leave for the country? And how can the season help foster national unity and development?
Great questions there, Kingsley. And what I would like to see is having taken part and experienced the blessings of the fast in the most holy month of Ramadan, how can the spirituality, virtue, and the spirit of sacrifice of Ramadan be carried on to normal everyday life after the fasting? And what does Eid-el-Fitr mean for families, society, and the nation building? It is my pleasure to welcome you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. My name is Kirian Umayo.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Kirian in also welcoming you to the program. We're being broadcast live from the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We are here in Abuja, that's Nigeria's capital city. And to all our Muslim viewers in the country and elsewhere around the world, we say Barka de Salah. It's happy Eid-Fitr. And Kirian, of course, it's a great deal of celebration as we join our Muslim friends and colleagues in having the celebrations later on today after the program.
I received an invitation from many of you.
Oh, sure, I have received invitations, and you haven't, obviously.
I will join you. I will join you.
All right, but of course, in the course of today's program, we shall also link up with our correspondent in New York to give us an update on the election of the UN General Assembly President, in which Nigeria's diplomat, that's Nigeria's permanent rep, Professor Tijani Bande, is contesting. Kieran? Yeah. We shall also have regular complimentary segments in the course of the program.
As always, newspaper review, business, and others. For now, let's bring in our colleague, Ruth Agole, who has the morning news. Ruth, Barka de Salah.
Barakada Salah, Kieran and Kinsley. I thought I'd been left out in the celebration.
Certainly not. You're part of it.
All right, good morning, and here's the morning news. Now, the presidential panel on the reform of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian Police has submitted its report to the federal government with far-reaching recommendations aimed at improving public safety and security in the country. President Muhammadu Buhari, who received the report, directed the Inspector General of Police, Solicitor General of the Federation, and the National Human Rights Commission to work out modalities for its implementation within 3 months.
The police must at all times act within the ambit of the law and must not violate the fundamental human rights of Nigerians whom they have sworn to protect. Where the rights of Nigerians are violated by police officers while discharging their functions, the government has a responsibility to address the instances of violation in line with its human rights obligations and ensure that such police officers are held accountable for their actions.
Meanwhile, the presidency says President Muhammadu Buhari has not approved the creation of state and local government police, as suggested in some reports. A statement by the senior special assistant to the president, Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, says the president only received the report on the reform of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad and specifically directed that a 3-man panel be set up to produce the white paper, which will form the basis of the decision of government on many recommendations by the Ojukwu panel. Until a white paper is produced, it will be a premature and preemptive to suggest that the recommendations contained in the report have been approved by the president in part or whole. And President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed satisfaction with the conduct of peaceful elections in Nigeria, despite what he called doomsday predictions of social disharmony. In his Ramadan message issued by his senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, the president commended Nigerians and INEC for a good job, despite the initial difficulties, and praised the electorate for their tenacity and strong faith in the democratic process. President Buhari promised Nigerians that their sacrifices in voting for him will not be in vain, as they will feel the positive impact of his administration. He urged Muslims to always put humanity before personal interests, reminding them that the Ramadan period is meant to reinforce their spirituality, advising them to use religion as an inspiration to do good at all times. President Buhari also used the occasion to commiserate with victims of terrorism, kidnapping, and banditry in the country. He reassured Nigerians that under no circumstances will criminals and mass murderers be allowed to hold the country to ransom, promising that his administration will pursue them relentlessly and bring them to justice. And in New York, we hear that the Nigerian mission is prepared for the likely election of Nigeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Professor Tijani Muhammad Bande, as the president of the 74th United Nations General Assembly. Joy Osago reports that a delegation arrived from Nigeria on Sunday ahead of the election scheduled for Tuesday. Nigerian diplomats from various missions and a few from the headquarters in Abuja are meeting at the Mission House in New York to go through the final documents and the vision of the African and Nigerian presidency. Other member nations are looking forward to Professor Bande's presidency and his vision for a more proactive United Nations. And back home on the Eid-el-Fitr celebration, the Nigerian police force has assured Nigerians of adequate security during the Eid-el-Fitr celebration. In a statement released by the Force Public Relations Officer, Frank Mba, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has directed all Assistant Inspector General and Commissioners of Police across the zones and states to intensify security across Eid praying grounds, including recreation centers. The Inspector General of Police advised members of the public to be vigilant and report any suspicious movement or activities around them to nearby police stations. Similarly, the Federal Road Safety Corps has assured Nigerians of massive deployment of its personnel to the highways to guarantee the safety of motorists during and after the Eid-el-Fitr celebration. In a statement signed by the FRSC Public Education Officer BC Kazim, the FRSC Court Marshal Boboye Oyeyemi appealed to travelers to take necessary precautions and report any emergency to the short code 112 or 070-2255-3772. Pensioners in the Federal Civil Service under the umbrella of the Nigerian Union of Pensioners have appealed to the federal government to include them in the committee to work out implementation of minimum wage so their voices can be heard. The appeal for President Buhari's intervention was made during a peaceful protest by the pensioners to the office of the Secretary to the Federation, where the letter of protest was submitted.
We've suffered a lot on this pension increase. The other time it was increased, salary were increased. They've just finished paying our 33% in April. Whereas workers have collected their own. So we want the federal government to include us so that by the time worker review comes out, our own too will come out.
All right, that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kieran and Kinsley after this break. Stay with us.
One football confederation, 24 teams, 6 stadiums, 4 cities, 504 African stars, 1 trophy. The Africa Cup of Nations Egypt 2019 comes alive from June 21 with the showpiece final on July 19, 2019. Watch the 52 matches of the tournament live on Africa's biggest and largest television network, NTA, in partnership with Hot Sports. Be part of the biggest soccer fiesta in the African continent as the Super Eagles go on a bold mission to clinch the prestigious title for the 4th time to the excitement of millions of fans across the length and breadth of Nigeria. Nigeria's premier sports production and marketing group, Hot Sports, partners with the biggest, the largest and the #1 television network in Africa, the NTA, to give Nigerians a memorable viewing experience. Boost fan support for the Super Eagles to glory in Egypt. For inquiries, please contact Abubakar on 0803-331-0175 and Felix on 0803-308-2375. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
It's Ramadan. It's okay to share what you love. Ramadan Kareem from Indomie. Indomie Super Pack now available at 85 Naira.
The general public is hereby invited to the unveiling ceremony of a historical exhibition in pictures, arts and immersive environment as part of activities lined up to mark the 2019 Democracy Day commemoration. The exhibition with the theme Unbroken Democracy is scheduled to take place as follows. Date 7th June 2019. Venue International Conference Center, ICC. Time 4:30 p.m. Please note, the exhibition will remain open to the public until June 12, 2019. Boss Mustafa, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, announcer.
ayé ò ní rí ẹ mú o.
àmín.
ò ní dààmú ò ní ṣìrìn ò ní rí. ó yà wọnú ògo tuntun lọ ẹlẹ́dàá mi.
ẹ tàmí yín kọ́.
ṣé ìwọ ti rókun tó gbẹ rí.
kò lè gbẹ bí. àwọn ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀.
ó yá fi sí spíkà.
ẹ̀bùn látọ̀mù mi gbé wá tèmi.
Ọlọ́run á ràn yín lọ́wọ́.
ẹ̀yin náà lè ṣerú ẹ̀ fáwọn.
Get 5 times your recharge value to call all networks without restrictions. Recharge and dial *234# to enjoy this offer. Available to new and existing customers.
ìwọ náà borí ẹ wá kó wá gbàdúrà á dáa fún ẹ.
Airtel. The Smartphone Network.
NTA Television College Jos announces admissions into 2-year diploma programs in film and television production, television engineering, and broadcast journalism. The sale of forms will commence on the 13th of May and run through 30th July 2019. Admission forms can be obtained from all marketing offices, NTA state capital stations, zonal centers, or at the office of the academic secretary, NTA Television College, Rayfield, Jos.
On payment of a non-refundable fee of 7,500 naira in bank draft in favor of NTA TV College. Applicants can also obtain the forms through the NTA TV College portal at www.ntatvc.edu.nj.
Applicants are required to possess 5 credits in GCE or SSCE in relevant areas of study in not more than 2 sittings, including English and mathematics. All properly completed forms attached with photocopies of credentials must be submitted on or before 30th July 2019. For further inquiries, please visit our website at ntatvc.com or call 0803 3144 383.
NTA TV College, training you to be the best you want to be.
Registrar Announcer.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's time for us to take some business stories, and our correspondent Kunle Adeyeye has the stories.
Comptroller General of Customs Hamid Ali is quite categorical that sharing of information, especially at borders with other security agencies and residents in these areas, will help the service counter smuggling and bring more funds into government coffers. He said customs has also redoubled efforts in training its personnel in different capacities.
We must get our information correct. And if we need figures and everything, then we can take it up at the higher level. That is the angle of notice. But for the other borders, I think we need to have an information exchange medium.
And the equities market closed on Monday on a negative note as Nigeria Stock Exchange All-Share Index depreciated by 0.45% to close at 30,930.39 points as against 0.59% depreciation recorded previously. And next is details of Monday's tradings on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
Loza Kunle Adeyeye with business news. And next is newspaper review.
Right, newspaper reviewer Baya Toyobe is right here with us in the studios. Baya, good morning, and Baraka de Sala.
Thank you very much. Baraka de Sala, Kinsley. Baraka de
Sala.
Good morning, Nigeria. Baraka de Sala.
After the program, you take us out.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 newspapers this morning. And let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. That is a very interesting photo story that on the first page of the newspaper. But let's begin with the stories below the nameplate of the newspaper. Daily Trust, Zamfara, confusion as factions expel Yari Marafa, as on page 13. And Oando, Sumonu Health's interim management team. And now the lead story is insecurity. Presidential panel recommends state, local government police. Buhari asks IGP others to work out modalities. And now the photo story I just spoke about, there are particularly 2, one on the right and the other on the left. The one on the right is actually suspected kidnappers and armed robbers and others. While the photo on the left-hand side, suspects paraded at the first headquarters in Abuja yesterday for allegedly smuggling guns and ammunition into Nigeria from Libya and Burkina Faso through Benin and the Niger republics. And on the foot of the Daily Trust, we have missing jump 35 million naira, woman gets 20 million naira bail. It's on page 3. Sultan declares today Eid-el-Fitr Day. It's on page 4. And Emefiele begins second tenure as CBN governor. We have that on page 3.
Kira and Bayo, let me also take the security stories, the photos and then the headlines from the Punch newspaper. Punch, the lead story for Punch says, Presidential panel okays state police, and Serap and Kakol seek National Assembly action. That's on page 2. Now, the photo story that Kira read from one of the papers is also on the front page of the Punch newspaper. And you can see there the suspects who were arrested and the ammunition, that's the bullets, the magazines, and of course some of the weapons that were recovered from them as they were paraded by the Nigeria Police Force at the SAS office in Abuja yesterday. Police arrest 38 bandits, kidnappers, and recover 24 rifles. That's what you have there on the front page of the Punch newspaper. And then for the blueprint, the photograph is similar with regard to the alleged bandits and gun runners who were picked up by the police and some of the guns and ammunition that were put on display. And below that, you have the headline, State Police. Buhari directs Inspector General of Police and NHRC, that's Human Rights Commission, and others to study SARS report. Details on page 16. Now, the lead story for Blueprint is also on security, and it says, bandits attack Zamfara governor's convoy. MJTF, that's Multinational Joint Task Force troops, kill 20 ISWAP fighters, 4 soldiers injured. Details on page 6. Bayo.
Yes. Let's start from the report from the blueprint. The report from the blueprint seems to capture the actual correct situation, because some papers are saying that the presidency has approved state police, and there have already been denial about it. What actually happened was that there was a presidential panel on the special anti-robbery squad, SARS, and the chairman was the executive secretary of the National Human Rights Commission. And they presented a report, and the president has directed the Inspector General of Police and the Solicitor General to meet with the National Human Rights Commission to study it, and within 3 months provide situations for which recommendations can be carried out. And the president has also said that he has taken initiative to reform the Nigerian police force. The steps taken include increasing the population of the police force and improving the welfare. But he has also emphasized they must always operate within the ambit of the law. And operating within the ambit of the law, 38 suspected kidnappers and bandits have been arrested with 24 AK-47 rifles. Another success recorded by the Nigerian police was that 4 men that are involved in international arms syndicate have been arrested. They were arrested in a place called Shaki in Oyo State. And for the meantime, the feat was achieved by a combination of police intelligence resource team, the special tactical squad, and the counter-terrorism unit as part of the Operation Puff Adder. Meanwhile, troops of 17th Brigade have also arrested 5 kidnappers along Ruango-Dia Forest in Faskari local government area of Katsina State. So the security agencies are on the prowl and going after the bandits, the kidnappers. Meanwhile, unfortunately, the Daily Trust is reporting that the terrorist group have reportedly taken over Marte, and particularly they headed for the army base. This has not been confirmed, and it's a matter that the Nigeria Army has not confirmed, but the Daily Trust is happening on that. But today is Eid-el-Fitr Day, and in Islam, what they say is Takaballahu minna wa minkum. That is, may Allah accept the fast from you and from me. And it was sequel to the announcement of the sighting of the moon yesterday. The Sultan announced that the moon of Shawwal had been sighted in states of Kano, Jigawa, and Yobe, and that brought the month of Ramadan to an end. President Muhammad Buhari has urged the faithfuls to sustain the virtues of Ramadan. He says that the fast period was meant to reinforce spirituality. Therefore, religion should be used as an inspiration to do good at all times. This, he said, should be sustained beyond the celebration. He urged the occasion use the occasion to commiserate with victims of terrorism, kidnapping, and banditry in the country, saying that criminals and all mass murderers will not be allowed to hold the country to ransom. He said that their days are numbered. He also used the occasion to talk about the elections, and he said the elections, INEC did quite well in the elections, and he's also grateful to Nigerians who came out of mass and voted for him. And he said, I commend INEC and you voters for voting for me. I will ensure that the ordinary voter feel the positive impact of governance. Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki has also called for sustaining of the virtues and momentum of prayers and sacrifice that has been learned during Ramadan. Also, Speaker Yakubu Dogara says that the lessons of Ramadan must be replicated in our daily lives so as to enhance a better society. He called for a sober reflection to the support of the needy and prayer for peace, unity, and development of our nation. So, Salah, happy Salah everywhere, and Eid-el-Fitr Mubarak to everyone.
Yes, one of the stories that's most striking from what we've read, if you ask me, is that of the success recorded by the police, with respect to the arrest of the gun runners, particularly the gun runners, because these are people that are fueling, these banditry. Because without arms, you cannot have a bandit.
That's right. No doubt about that. And the police have to be commended for what they have done. I mean, the Operation Pawfadder and the special IG intelligence unit, rapid response, they are working flat out, to ensure that this guy, the bandits, are arrested and then made to account.
Especially in Zamfara, of course, the governor has been welcomed to office, by him being attacked.
Actually, the governor was visiting a village, Lilo village, in the suburbs of Gusau, where the same bandits had killed 8 people and 18 people were injured. It was on that same trip that his convoy was also under attack. That is the audacious nature of the bandits now, and this is why something has to be done strictly to curtail it. But the effect of the police is being felt across now, because even last week, tremendous success were reported in Benue State too. And the Commissioner of Police was on record there that they got tremendous support from members of the public in tracing this. Even this one that the Deputy Commissioner of Police, Frank Mba, revealed that it was with tremendous support from public information from members of the public. So the public can help the police the nation by providing information about criminals. And
if you recall, some weeks ago, there were also reports of the arrest of some of the bandits who had been operating, kidnappers and bandits who had been on the Abuja-Kaduna highway. There were about 96 or so of them, who were picked up at the time, some of them with varying degrees of injuries. If they survived those injuries subsequently, that would be a different consideration. But the more these operations are carried out, the better it will be. When you take a look at the map of Nigeria, the northwest region, you see how close that region is, northwest region, to Benin Republic. Of course, Benin Republic has a border with us. Niger Republic is there. And then across, just a tiny sliver of land, if you like, between Niger and Mali. And then there is also Burkina Faso. Now, Mali...
And Libya.
Libya is up front, yes. Libya is up front. But, Mali has been, parts of Mali have been ungovernable for many years. And in Burkina Faso, you get to hear of reports from time to time of assaults, you know, on high-profile hotels and high-profile dignitaries. And the attackers are usually, of course, never brought to, you know, to justice or whether they are arrested. So there would appear to be, in my opinion, some free movement that they are having. And I think that, you know, our security agencies...
There is an established network.
Absolutely.
Because from the reports we read, most of the arms come from Libya. So of course, you know, the porosity of Libya, you know, after the fall of Gaddafi, they have not recovered up to today. So there are so many factions, so many, you know, fighters here and there, in fact, being governed by generals, you know, who were also in the Gaddafi army. So
I think it's a combination of all. You have gangs that are competing to take over Libya. You have people that are fighting wars in part of Mali. Kingsley has just described the situation south of Mali coming to Burkina Faso. And what do you have now? You have renegade soldiers from the Chad army who are also there. And all of them are converging. And the only place where they see a lot of economic activity is Nigeria. And that is why Nigeria has become their magnet.
Yes.
I mean, you see all kinds of things on social media. You get to read and hear some of them. There's an audio that has been circulating about an alleged negotiation conversation between kidnappers and the family of the victim. And you could hear, I mean, somebody making an audacious demand that if you don't bring 50 million, we are not going to release the captive. 50? Where will you get 50, even 5 million in these times?
Well,
all right, let's take some other headlines, Kirian.
We're living with it today, so let's hope that the problem will be solved in the nearest future. Now, back to some newspapers here. I have a daily Nigerian Pilot, rather. I have Nigerian Pilot newspaper. Below the nameplate to have Governor Bala orders immediate payment of civil servant salaries. That's Governor Bala of Bauchi State. It's on page 42. Senator Marafa says his expulsion from APC cannot stand. It's on page 7. Now, the lead story here. Buhari Mall State Local Government Police with 4 riders says decision follows recommendations of Presidential Panel on Reform of SARS. Direct IGP Human Rights Commission orders to make impute. The 3-man panel will study report, issue white paper, OK's dismissal of 37 police officers and 24 others. That's on page 8. Now, on the 5th of the Nigerian Pilot, banks non-performing loans hit 1.676 trillion naira, says NBS. It's on page 8. Kogi governor signed Disability Persons Bill, 15 others into law. It's on page 8. And acting CJN says Buhari has power to sack or appoint CJN. It's on page 6. Now, NBS says manufacturing output dropped by 78 billion naira. It's captured on page 12. And then court decides Okorocha's fate on certificate of return on Friday. Is on page 6.
All right. From the Punch newspaper, above the nameplate of the Punch newspaper, Nigeria's fuel subsidy not supporting the poor. That's according to the World Bank. Reactions as Obasanjo asks Aisha Buhari to tell President the truth about insecurity. That's on page 2. Confusion in Zamfara APC as factions expel Yari, Marafa, and others. That's page 8. And on page 39, principals aiding and abetting exam fraud, says NECO. And an earpiece there beside the nameplate, a story arising from Oando, says alleged infraction. Court stops sex decision on Oando's Tinubu, and OFM suffers share price drop after Commission's action. And then you go to the foot of the front page of the Punch newspaper. Court finds ex-Nimasa boss 42 million naira for stealing 225 million naira. That's on page 8. MFM suspends pastor who raped and impregnated 16-year-old. And Eid-el-Fitr, Buhari hails Nigerians over peaceful polls and mocks doomsayers. Let me quickly also take the other headlines from Blueprint newspaper, and then Bayo can then discuss these ones. Blueprint, Agric, that's an earpiece beside the nameplate. Federal government to spend 15.66 billion naira on 30 commodities. Woman in court over conspiracy to kidnap husband in Lagos. That's page 8. U.S.-China trade war may affect 2019 budget, page 34. Ninth National Assembly, controversy over proclamation for inauguration Tuesday, as PDP federal lawmakers elect meet. Controversy over proclamation for inauguration Tuesday. Now, the other stories, of course, are also there at the foot of the front page of the Blueprint newspaper.
Okay. Well, let's talk about stories about new brooms sweeping clean. The governor in Kwara State, Abdurrahman Abdulrazak, has ordered the Ministry of Water Resources to provide constant water supply to Ilorin metropolis within 100 days. The governor who visited the Agba, Asa, and the water reservoir at Adewale area lamented that no part of Kwara State get constant water supply. You recall that Kwara State was created as West Central State, you remember? And when the state was created, and it created at the same time with states like Lagos and Kano. There is no single place in Kwara that have potable water supply. Some couple of years ago, during the Lawal administration, they provided tanks, overhead tanks, a lot of boreholes, and they were providing water with Lawal inscribed all over it. Later on, the administration that came changed it, and they wrote there, instead of up Lawal, up Kwara, and up Kwara went with no water.
Enugu, for instance, Kwara is alone there. There are many old cities in this country that don't have water, no proper reticulation of water.
And when the governor asked, guess what they said was the problem? They are owing public water supply 24 million, and so they have been disconnected from public power supply. And their monthly bill for power is 9.7 million a month. So, in Ilorin, no water supply. In Offa, the Onyo Water Works is gone under. And so people do not have water supply.
It's part of the challenge that we face in terms of public utilities. While in the Fourth Republic, we have seen a lot of attention devoted to road as part of the infrastructural upgrade, unfortunately, we haven't seen also commensurate attention being paid to public water supply. So everybody's relying on boreholes, and boreholes. I mean, it's something that one says, with a great deal of regret now. Growing up, we didn't know what boreholes were. We didn't know. We didn't know what boreholes were. You knew that there was a water tower at Yaro. There was another water tower near the Oba's Palace, and that was it. You turned on the tap, it was working. I can still today, recollect where you had, public taps, on some major streets. Yes. So, but you could just, once there was reticulation, you connect to your house. And, well, if you tell that to young persons today, it's like, this is a piece of fiction, All right, Bayo, let's take the editorial. The editorial speaks to, the editorial is from the Daily Sun newspaper.
Yes.
And it's at page 15. Happy Eid-el-Fitr, that's from the Sun.
Okay. Well, actually, the editorials on the Eid-el-Fitr, can I quickly draw attention to Eze Nala? You remember him, Franklin? The boy who scored 347 JAM? Yeah. Well, the University of Lagos is saying they are considering a special and possible admission arrangement for him. And that is some good news.
Very good news.
Yes. Now,
all this one that we keep saying, fine, it's good that University of Lagos. When was he born? And how old will he be when University of Lagos commences the 2019-2020 academic session?
Whichever way, let them give the young man admission.
No, but that fact is important to clear. I mean, why take the editorial?
Well, why was the boy registered to sit the exams when they knew that at the end of the exams he will not be admitted?
Yes.
Prima facie, that is a condition that at least they should have considered. Anyway, the editorial is saying that today is Ramadan, and like every of our leaders have said, the spirit of Ramadan should permeate all our daily life. That is to say that we should remember that in all our political, economic, and social activities, we should let the spirit of Ramadan permeate by especially remembering the downtrodden and the poor within the society. The editorial is saying that it's sad that within this month of special devotion to service and self-denial, criminality, insecurity, kidnapping have been going on the ascendancy. And therefore, something has to be done to address it frontally. Political office holders, the editorial is saying, that should also make it a duty to attend to the needs of the people. In fact, the Eid-el-Fitr is the editorial of two papers today. You have the Daily Independent and the Sun all writing on it. It all goes to emphasize that today is Eid-el-Fitr and it should not end with the celebration. The spirit should permeate everyone.
All right, Bayo. Well, that's where we concluded this segment of the program. We hope to see you again tomorrow for further analysis on stories on front pages of the national newspapers. This is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Now, when we return from this short break, we'll move into the focus of today's edition, which is, of course, on Eid-el-Fitr. Stay with us.
Television studio lighting requires skills which can only be acquired through professional training. NTA TV College JOS therefore invites engineers and technical officers in public and private television stations to a special 4-week course on television studio lighting. Date 10th June to 5th July 2019. Course fee 100,000 naira only per participant. Accommodation fees inclusive. Venue NTA TV College Rayfield JOS. The course will expose participants to modern techniques and technologies of television studio lighting, operation of studio lighting equipment, and the profound effect of lighting on television broadcast. For more enquiries, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College, training you to be the best you want to be.
Can I see your particulars, sir?
Officer, my particulars no dey here.
In that case, you'll have to come with me to the police station.
Officer, which levels? Where I for find you something make you take arrange your weekend.
What? Offense number 1, driving without particulars. Offense number 2, trying to bribe an officer of the law.
I won't harass Nigerians or take bribe. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, before we commence our conversation with our guests on the message and lessons of Eid-el-Fitr, we are going to join our correspondent, Joy Osiago, who is in New York, and she'll be joining us via Skype to give us an update on Nigeria's preparations for the elections later today of the 74th United Nations General Assembly President. Nigeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Professor Tijani Mohammed Bande, of course, is standing to be elected to that particular post. You can see Joy already on the right side of the split screen. Correspondent Joy Osiago, pleasure to have you with us. We know that small hours in New York at this time. You're 5 hours behind us. But give us a sense of what is afoot later on today when the elections will take place for the president of the 74th UN General Assembly.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. It's good to see you after a very long time. And it's interesting. Well, good morning to Kieran, too. It's good to see you. New York is fine. The stage is ready. We're all set, and we're just waiting for the elections to take place later on today at about 9:30 New York time. The delegation from Nigeria is on ground. The Nigerian permanent mission is ready. I spoke with a couple of people at the mission yesterday, including the permanent representative and his deputy. And from what I hear from them, they have a very strong vision, and they've been able to network with other member nations at the United Nations, and all is ready. They said we have just Professor Mohammed Bande standing in for this position, and that is because the position of the presidency of the General Assembly is rotational, and it is the turn of Africa.
Okay, Joy, what is the situation like, in terms of the chances of the Nigerian candidate to win this election, considering the fact that there are other persons who are interested, and I believe that the Nigerian mission in New York has been hustling here and there to see whether they can garner support for the Nigerian candidate. So what are the chances Professor Bande?
Well, Kieran, the way it works, it is rotational and it's been given to Africa. And even within the African continent, it is also that way. And so for now, we have West Africa online. Professor Tijani is the only one who is standing in from West Africa. I understand Kenya tried to challenge this position earlier during the horse trading session. But of course, Kenya was told that it has been zoned to West Africa. And since West Africa has Professor Tijani Muhammad Bande standing in and also considering his pedigree, this is who they're going for. So right now we have just Professor Muhammad Bande standing in for this position. So all is well. He has a very good rapport with member nations. His predecessor is strongly behind him. You talk about the rep of AU and the Deputy Secretary General, who is also from Nigeria, is standing behind him. So we see no challenge ahead of us. We're just expecting to go for the election as a formality.
Well, Joy, for the benefit of our viewers, perhaps you take for us what the role of the President of the UN General Assembly is, considering that there is also the Chief Executive of the UN himself, who is the Secretary General. So what exactly is the role of the President of the General Assembly?
The President of the General Assembly usually presides over the sessions during that term, which is a period of a year. He sits over various meetings. He has the power to decide on the decisions made by member nations concerning various issues that are related to the United Nations. And these are issues that sometimes, if you look at the visions of whoever the president is at the time, they are in tandem with what he has in his vision. And these are the issues that he takes a look at, and he has the prerogative to take final decisions on what they agree on. So that takes place for a period of a year before someone else will take over from him.
Sorry, before we let you go, Joy, what are the benefits, accruable to Africa, for instance, if he merges the hunger head? What are those benefits, because, well, as you pointed out earlier on that Kenya wanted to intervene and all of that, but because it was zoned to West Africa, of course, Nigeria stands a chance. What are the benefits that West Africa is going to get from having him as the head of hunger?
There are many. If you, I took a look at his vision, and he's addressing most of the challenges that we face on the continent. Now, the good thing about that is these challenges are not peculiar to Africa. They're global, and they address most of the issues that 192 countries are looking at when you talk about sustainable development goals. Now, you would like to know what we're talking about. We're looking at peace and security, which is high on his scale of preference. You know what is going on the African continent in terms of conflict resolution. That is a major area that he's focusing on. He's also looking at education. He's looking at terrorism. He's talking about eradicating or reducing hunger to the barest minimum. And these are issues that we face on the African continent begging for attention. I also talked to him about how he intends to work with leaders from different countries, and I'm talking about presidents, because you can't be fighting these issues without having political will from the leaders of the country. And he has a strategic plan on ground, how they can work with presidents of various African countries, and not just Africa, even other continents that are suffering from the same challenge, to see how the United Nations can network with them to help them work towards some of these issues, which are also found in the Sustainable Development Goals, so that by the year 2030, many nations will try to move towards catching up with the Sustainable Development Goals. So yes, we have so many of the needs of Africa included in his vision. And his vision is also in line with what President Muhammadu Buhari is focusing on. So not just West Africa, even Nigeria will benefit a lot from this. And because he has strong backing from the federal government, I think working with the president of Nigeria to solve some of the challenges we have, talking about security challenges, which is something the federal government is looking at now, will be an easy task for President Bande and his team.
All right, Joy, just before we let you go, again, we need to remind our viewers, Kirian as well, that this is Nigeria's second shot, as it were, at the presidency of the UN General Assembly. 30 years ago, the late Major General Joseph Gaba was elected as president of the UN General Assembly. He held that office from 1989 to 1990. Now, do we have a sense, Joy, of when the elections might take place later today, New York time, and when Nigerians should expect the good news out of the East Coast?
Election is scheduled for 9:30 New York time, and we will all be there. I will be there on location, and I'll be giving you reports as things unfold from the venue, which is within the United Nations complex. And probably within an hour or two, we should know the outcome of the election, and we'll report back to you, tell you about what went on there, and the likely decisions that we're taking after that.
All right, Joy Osiago, we thank you so much for your thoughts this morning concerning the election. It's been wonderful talking to you. Joy Osiago is our correspondent in New York. She is monitoring the Onga election, which of course she said will take place in the next hour. Thank you once more, Joy.
For having me.
All right, now to set the tone for this conversation, we're going to take a break first. When we return, we'll get that done and of course move into the nitty-gritty of our conversation on Good Morning Nigeria this Tuesday.
They are there at the crack of dawn. They are there busy preparing while we rise for our day. They are there silently, guarding, waiting, listening, and watching. They are there ready in the sky above and the waters below, in the blistering heat of the day, in the dead of night, willing, indefatigable, determined in the defense of the sovereignty of our country. They are our first line of defense and our last. They who have paid the ultimate price in defending us. They are fathers and uncles. They are mothers and sisters and girlfriends and boyfriends. They are brothers and cousins and best friends and neighbors. They are classmates, colleagues, and citizens of this nation. They are our defenders and deserve our respect, our prayers, our thoughts. Nigeria, please support our armed forces. There's a smarter way to live with Airtel Binge Plan, the ideal data plan for those heavy data moments. Get a 2 GB daily binge plan for 500 Naira. Dial *141# to activate. Live smarter with data.
Airtel, the smartphone network. One football confederation, 24 teams, 6 stadiums, 4 cities, 504 African stars, 1 trophy. The Africa Cup of Nations Egypt 2019 comes alive from June 21 with the showpiece final on July 19, 2019. Watch the 52 matches of the tournament live on Africa's biggest and largest television network, NTA, in partnership with Hot Sports. Be part of the biggest soccer fiesta in the African continent as the Super Eagles go on a bold mission to clinch the prestigious title for the 4th time, to the excitement of millions of fans across the length and breadth of Nigeria. For inquiries, please contact Abubakar on 0803-331-0175 and Felix on 0803-308-2375. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Advertising
your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. The station is on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46, StarTimes channel 101, and Free TV channel 703. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods, and services. So, partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call Henry on 0803-379-0884 or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
Thank you for staying with us up to this moment. And now our discussion this morning is focusing on Eid-el-Fitr. But first of all, let's hear the message of the Sultan of Sokoto, Sultan Mohammed Saad Abubakar, on the 29th Eid celebration.
To 3rd June 2019 marked the end of Ramadan 1440 after Hijrah. Reliable reports of moon sighting were received from Muslim leaders across the country, such as the Sheikh of Borno, Emir of Gwandu, Emir of Duse, Emir of Jama'ah in Kaduna, Emir of Guru and Machina in Yobe, Emir of Damatru in Yobe, and also in some parts of Sokoto here, which were duly accepted by us. Consequently, Tuesday, the 4th day of June 2019, becomes the first day of Shawwal 1440 AH, and therefore the Eid-el-Fitr. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of us for the ibadah we performed in the holy month of Ramadan with Al-Jannah to Firdaus.
All right, now that was the message of the Sultan of Sokoto on the 2019 Eid celebrations. Now we have guests with us in the studios to discuss matters arising from the Ramadan and also, of course, the Eid-el-Fitr celebrations today. First, let's welcome Dr. Wasiu Garbadin. Dr. Garbadin is one of the imams of the University of Abuja, a co-imam, as is officially referred to. Dr. Garbadin, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thanks so much. Eid-el-Mubarak.
All right. Also, here with us in the studios, would like to welcome Hajia Rafat Salami. She's women leader of the Al-Habibiyya Islamic Society. Hajia Rafat, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
And also seated with us in the studio is Reverend Father Ame Eja Silvanos. Thank you, Reverend Father, for coming. He's of the Abuja Archdiocese.
Thank you
You're most welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, we have Chris Aguirre, the Flag Foundation of Nigeria. Chris, it's also a pleasure to have you this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's begin the conversation with Dr. Abdul Wasiu Garbadin. Today is Eid-el-Fitr, and the month-long Ramadan is over.
Yeah.
In the mind of a Muslim, what does this mean?
Well, I have to start by thanking God Almighty. It is not so, it's a special grace for passing through that 1 month. We have quite a number of people that we started together. Today they are late, not because we are better than them, but that's just what God has designed for them. So on that note, I thank the producer, everybody. Now, Eid-el-Fitr has two major reasons that we have to celebrate. The first one is to commemorate the fasting of 1 month that we have passed through. It's a way to give thanks to God Almighty, and also is a period that we want to felicitate with one another, whether you are Muslim or you are not Muslim. It's a period of felicitation. And is the hallmark of today is to sign in another life, because we've passed through a particular life in the last 1 month. We are signing in another life now. And that life supposed to be a reflection of what we have passed through in the last 1 month. And that is why it is very special for us in Islam to have this day. It has so many etiquettes that we have to observe when we are talking about today. You see Muslims all over the world coming out in their attires, going out, everybody, male, female, young, old, as long as you can make it to the praying ground. You are all supposed to be there. And there are two important things on that day. We offer 2 rakats of prayers to thank God Almighty, and the Imam will now give us some messages. And that message, it needs to remind us about the lessons we derive in the month of Ramadan. And more importantly, because we have to stress this area, the issue about Ramadan and the outcome of Ramadan has to manifest in relationship. Relationship with God, relationship with the faithful, relationship with every human being. At no point in time you negate the humanity in a person in the name of faith. No, you don't negate that humanity. It's a creation of somebody, and at every point in time you respect that person in him. Even if you find him wanting, you still give him that respect of that humanity. And that's what one of the things we are trying to do today. It's a merrymaking. And I so much love the setting. My brother here, the father, which we have been interacting before with. I mean, shows the kind of society we are trying to build. May God Almighty give us His grace and make this year Ramadan Eid-el-Fitr to be a successful one for us as individuals and for Nigerian as a nation.
All right, Dr. Abdul Owasi, we'll obviously return to you for further clarifications on the issue of relationship between Ramadan and the day-to-day behavioral pattern of Nigerians. Let's turn to Ajia Rafat Salami of the Habibia Islamic Society. Give us another perspective, to the meaning of Ramadan and, of course, how a Muslim should conduct him or herself within this period.
Well, I'll take it from where our Ustaz just stopped about, what we should do with your neighbors and everybody regardless of their faith. At the Al-Habibia Islamic Society at the mosque, we had the Archbishop Cardinal Naeko coming in to join us for iftar. And he was even there to serve food. And he came with Sister Agatha. So it was, we at the society that we had been exemplifying that this is what it should be. It shouldn't be a period where you want not to work with somebody because he has a faith different from yours. Humanity first connects us. And your faith must lead you to humanity and to connect with humanity. If it doesn't, then you need to reevaluate what you are learning and who you are learning from, because none of the books will tell you to do that. Now, significantly again today, before today, Muslims are expected, those who have the means are expected to have given Zakat-ul-Fitr. Zakat-ul-Fitr is given to the needy. The idea is today everybody must celebrate. So if you are not giving Zakat-ul-Fitr, then you should be receiving. Everybody must have something with which you will mark today. Now, when you also go out, you are expected to share. If you have the means, you share with your neighbors, regardless of their faith. Share with your neighbors, visit your friends, host friends, just be merry. And then when you are doing that, you will see that the society will become a better place. And importantly for me as a woman, it's important for me to also say that a woman must go to the Eid. The Prophet ﷺ did not stop women from participating. He said women should join the Eid prayers. If you are in your monthly circles and you cannot pray, you are still expected to be within the Eid ground, even if you are not participating in the prayer. And then we are also expected to be dressed gaily. it's celebration.
Yeah, we can see the tattoos already.
I took time to do all this.
Yes, if we can have a close-up shot, you can see he's already in the mood for it.
I took time to do all this because it's part of the season. We're supposed to be gaily dressed, beautifully dressed, not expensively dressed. This is not a new dress I'm wearing. It's an old dress which I tried to put some spray starch and iron. So don't stress yourself if you cannot buy something new for yourself. You are expected to just be neat. For the men, they dab perfumes, smell nice. And then you go to the mosque.
Ajia, thank you very much. I would like to return to Dr. Garba then. I mean, Ramadan has ended, but let's back up a bit and ask, why Ramadan?
Thank you so much. I've been expecting that question, why Ramadan? And see, we have been, Ramadan, first and foremost, is a month among the 12 months in Islam. Ramadan is the 9th month. But there are some activities that characterized that month. And the first one is the issue of fasting. Now, I would like to describe Ramadan as like a center for soul purification and spiritual development. It's a center for soul purification and spiritual development. Now, to be admitted to this center, you need to be faithful. And after passing through the training in that center, you come out to be godly. You come out as a pious person. That's why Allah says in Quran chapter 2, verse 183, "O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed for you, just like it has been prescribed for people before you, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ," so that you can come out to be pious. Now, piety resides in the heart. Nobody can see it. It's invisible. But it transmits into the society through your behavior. And that is why Quran explains piety through conduct, through your relationship with people, with God, with everybody. For instance, now during this month of Ramadan, we said abstinence from eating and drinking. But there's no any policeman. But people are abstaining. It shows a level of honesty. Yeah, that you are being honest with your Creator. Then it means after Ramadan, you transmit that honesty in you to your relationship, in your offices, with your neighbor, with everybody. You have to be honest with them. Now, if this is what we have learned for 1 month, then you need to be able to practice it in the other months. Ramadan is equally a period whereby we try to review our relationship with God and try to boost what I call our spiritual capacity. We try to boost our spiritual, just like you recharge your phone regularly, so you have Ramadan to recharge your soul as well. You keep it with the fear of God and everything you have in you. And that is why something is very significant during Ramadan. You will notice that mosque always fill to the beam during Ramadan. Why? Because that's the center of activity. It's a rallying point. It's a spiritual rallying point. It's a socio-economic rallying point. It's a political rallying point. It's an educational rallying point. It is everything. Yeah, and that's why. So my dear viewers at home, especially those of us who pass through this fasting, let your immediate community see in you that you have actually attained a training. Because for every employer of labor, when you are sent for a training, it's all about productivity. They want to see you how you are going to be productive in the workplace. So what we can only see that we've learned in Ramadan is to see you behaving better than the way you have been behaving before. That is when you have actually passed through the training and you have coming out of that training to be excellent.
All right, thank you. Reverend Father Stephanus, fasting and atonement of sin are also synonymous with the Christian faith. How would you link this up? The Ramadan, which we're celebrating today, the Eid-el-Fitr we're celebrating today, and, the Christian aspect of this same fasting thing, how do they relate?
Listening to Dr. Abdul speak right now about the month of Ramadan, I was just saying in my mind, this man is just simply describing the season of Lent for us Christians, precisely Catholics, because it's like 95% the same thing. He said Ramadan is the time for spiritual purification and development. That's basically what Lent is also about. A time where during which we abstain from a lot of things to mortify ourselves, prepare ourselves, have better relationship with our God, and after the season of Lent, everything we have practiced, we translate into life after Lent, especially in our relationship with other people and with God. So I see a very close resemblance between the Ramadan period in Islam and the period of Lent in Christianity. It's basically the same thing that we are teaching. A time for mortification, a time for spiritual renewal, a time for withdrawing back, making an assessment of our lives, how we have lived before, and what we can do better after the season of Lent. So it's just like the same thing that they are doing, what we are doing, completely.
Yeah, but still with you, Reverend Father Ahmed, in terms of the origins of Lent, there is, excuse me, usually in Christendom, a reference to the time Jesus Christ was in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights.
That's true.
And of course, the temptation then followed by the devil, and of course, he defeated the devil. How does this tie up with Islamic religion in terms of the origin of Ramadan? I asked the question earlier, why Ramadan? Can we have that understanding?
Well, like you just explained, for the Christians, the origin of the season of Lent, the 40 days practice of Lent, is the 40 days fasting of Jesus Christ in the wilderness, where he was cut off from human society, and there he was tempted by the devil and eventually triumphed. That for us is the beginning of the season of Lent, the origin actually of the season of Lent. And the whole idea is to remind ourselves of the fact that we can overcome sin, we can overcome temptations, we can be better people. There are so many things around us every day that are capable of drawing us into sin. But then, using the benchmark of the experience of Jesus, and Jesus showing us an example that defeating temptations is possible, we have learned from that. And that is what we are putting into practice in the season of Lent. And from what he just explained, also, the origin of Ramadan is for them also a time where they get themselves prepared to show the fact that defeating sin, defeating evil is also possible. And he traced this origin a little bit. I know that it is much more deeper than what he just said, but we don't have the luxury of time to go into all of that. But you see that there's a close resemblance still between what we have and what is practiced in Islam. That we are looking back at somewhere, we are coming from somewhere. It's not just something that developed suddenly. And all of this also is stemming from the founders of the two faiths.
Well, Chris, I agree. You have listened to our guests, who are also preachers of different faiths. What's your take in all of this? We see Ramadan annually, and well, many questions could arise as to whether we are translating the purity which we'll try to pass through into day-to-day activities. So what's your understanding of the entire exercise?
Yeah, thank you very much. The two of them had elaborated the similarities between the two religions, the two faiths, Christianity and Islam. And religion generally, as a social institution, next to the family, or whichever one that comes first, is comprehensive. All the practices, all that we are aspiring to be, is aimed towards elevating ourselves to that level, that style of life that is rational, ethical, moral, just, otherwise. That is in practical terms. Whatever Islam teaches, with respect to the fasting, Christianity also teaches respect to the Lent, fast 40 days and 30 days. I think the challenge and what we should aspire is that this piety we're talking about, this consciousness, this goodness we are aspiring, this moral consciousness that religion teaches, beyond the practice of religion, beyond the four corners of the mosque and the churches, beyond this period of celebration, this period of fasting and all that, it should translate into our day-to-day living, mostly in our public life. Well, here you are. Almost 90%, if not 100% of politicians or leaders are either Christians or Muslims. They ought to observe these things, which is designed to also further reinforce the fear of God. So these things we've learned, which is as a way of life, should translate in the way we do things, as a people, as a nation, as a political entity. If actually we are living in accordance with these teachings and details, our society will not be the way it is today. And religion, as something that is comprehensive and deep, we believe that teachings of religion is holistic in nature. If that is the case, why don't we use religion, the two religions mostly now, as mediums to communicate to Nigerians, to our fellow citizens, to the fellow members of the society, that piety, that way of life, that ethical, moral standard that is required. If we do that, you find out we'll end up having a better society, end up having a just society, end up having a society that is, where love is practical, it's action. I mean, where love is real. Like the month of Ramadan, it's a holy month, and one of the five pillars of Islam. And here we are, we have our leaders, like the leader of the country today, is a Muslim. He has observed this religiously as we know it. And then we expect that the lessons learned will translate into that love, that genuine love, across board, all political office holders, both as Christians and as Muslims. And then we use these religious institutions as mediums to impact the citizens. So look, instead of, unlike religion here, is almost like practice as an abstract thing. We start everything, with prayers, end with prayers. At the end of the day, we behave, we live as if God has changed, as if God is no longer the same, as if, hypocrisy. If you see the level of hypocrisy within among ourselves, within us, as Christians or Muslims, so that's one thing. Even looking at religion, looking at the Islamic religion, I remember what I was taught as a student of philosophy, University of Lagos, studying. I did a course, philosophy of religion, Islam, and there it taught us about the ethics of Islam, which has to do with the behavior of an Islamic person. Yes, it talks about then the ethics as behavior. Sometimes we look at those are might consider deviants. You have the Boko Haram, the ISIS, and all the rest of them, the Al-Shabaab, all in the name of religion. I begin to wonder. We also thought about the metaphysics of Islam, which is the spiritual aspect of Islam. There was some works done on the similarities between Christianity and Islam. They all believe virtually in the same thing. We also were taught about the epistemology of Islam, which is, not the epistemology, the ethics and morals, the ethics and morality, the ethics of Islam. Yes, I've said that. Yeah, the epistemology, which is the knowledge of Islam. You see that early Islamic philosophers propounded theories that is still relevant today. And I was also taught at that time that in other words, if I look at how we live, how we do things as a political entity, as neighbors, as brothers, you don't see the practicality, the influence of religion.
Chris Aguirre, thank you very much for the points that you have just raised. You were saying we also thought. I hope you remember Professor C.S. Momo. If he was the late Professor C.S. Momo, University of Lagos. That's right. Okay, let's pause you in the meantime. I'd like to return to Abdul Wasil. Chris Aguirre and in fact the other speakers have talked about, the essence of what Ramadan has been all about, and now today we are having this celebration. But there's also that aspect for all of us, whether Muslims or Christians or otherwise, that we tend to practice religion in the abstract. Now, you talked about the fact that there's need for that transcendental behavior from that abstract into the reality in our relationships with God, our environment, and with other people. There are some lessons that I would like you to speak to arising from Ramadan. One, greed. Two, gluttony. In other words, if you put a bowl of pounded yam, as Chinua Achebe described in Things Fall Apart, I would say it must enter my tummy alone. That then, of course, translates into the public sphere. If I'm in the public office, all the monies that are meant for the public good, they must get into my pocket, even for generations yet unborn. And then charity. Charity. Is it sufficient for us to just be giving money to people? Or we now elevate charity to higher other things, setting up foundations, scholarships, and indeed endowments. So these are the things that I would like you to address.
Thanks so much. Mr. Chris has mentioned certain things. Maybe we'll come back to that later. I think we are getting to a point in this country to translate this book that people always take as oath of office into practice. I have been an advocate that any Muslim public office holder who on the day is assuming office use Quran to swear in, if he is found guilty, let us use the content of the Quran to apprehend him. Let us use, because that's the book you hold on to when he's swearing into that office. Then if you find him guilty, return him back to us. And let us, but if you advocate this one now, we see it from another perspective, whether we talk of Islamization or talk, but that's not the issue. And I equally believe that if you use the same approach for my Christian brothers that are public office holder, to use this content of the Bible, this is the country we see people have started trading with crime. Let me take away 10 million. They will charge me to return 2 million. Then I have a profit of 8 million. Then I think it's good for me to do that business. We shouldn't. Now, back to your question. Greediness is actually it has no place in Islam. You can't be a Muslim and remain a greedy, especially in Ramadan. You see what happens in Ramadan in every mosque, you keep on sharing. But beyond that, I've been an advocate that let us institutionalize our charitable effort. Yeah, especially when it becomes, capacity building for the youth, in terms of training, in terms of scholarship, in terms of equipment after receiving some skills. Let us equip them. This is a way that I think we can try to sanitize the society. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had been known to even going to the extent of giving charity to everybody irrespective of. People must realize that where we call the city of Medina today has been started to be a mixture of different faiths. And that's the way the Prophet ﷺ met them. And that's the way they live. And that is why if you see the verse that give instruction of Ramadan, there is a word there. Kutiba alaykum siyam. Kamon kutiba. We've prescribed fasting for you as we have prescribed it for people before you. So it's a continuation. Yeah. So maybe out of God's mercy, from 40, drop it down to 30. Maybe I can't say. That's yeah. So, but at least where we are going. I support, let us try to, and there are certain things beyond religion. We need some legislative backing to support it. There are some efforts. And I quickly want to add at this point that there should be a synergy between the two faithful and National Orientation Agency, so that we turn the member, the pulpit, we turn it to passing some messages. So the like of NIREC, it's another body. But let us know, we know in schools, we have some curriculum about moral, about this. But do we legislate what we pass on to our followers on the member? that will talk about all these things that will reform our society. Preaching of patriotism on the mimbar, preaching honesty on the mimbar, tolerance, peaceful coexistence. This should be part of the sermon. If just for 10 minutes or for every religious houses, we know this is, and we can come up with a kind of a curriculum for the mosque and churches that we want to just 10 minutes talk on this particular. That thing comes regularly. So as we are trying to rehabilitate our youth through the school, we equally rehabilitate the adult through the religious houses. And this thing will come together and we can move better.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
There is a project that Al-Habibia Islamic Society has been running. It's called Encouraging Accountability Through Faith-Based Interventions. And what you just described is what they are doing in 6 states and FCT. Talking to, they are developing a manual, a preaching manual, which religious leaders are expected to use. They've had at least 3 exposures in these states, where you have to make people understand that talking about corruption and reducing greed in the society has been in existence even before we started. It's in the Quran. But extracting it and relating it to contemporary issues is where the lacuna is. And that is where they are trying to bridge. So what is happening now is that there is a consciousness and there is a movement. Greed, like you said, has no place for a Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ is reported to have given so much that even if he had one date, a simple date, he still will give it out because he believed the person needed it more than he needed it. And Islam also provides that you should do your zakat, your annual zakat. You pay the due of your zakat. And it's supposed to bridge inequalities in the society. So if you're a Muslim and you have money and you're not paying your zakat, then you are asking yourself, how much of a Muslim are you? Is it that you do not understand that it's a purification for you and it's a safeguard for the society? It's bridging inequalities. So essentially, Muslims must go back to understand their religion. When you understand your religion, you will know where greed stands. I sympathize with all those who took oath of office during the month of Ramadan. I sympathize with them because you are fasting, you are taking an oath, you are using the Quran to take an oath. Well, may Allah help them. May Allah help them, and I hope they commit themselves to the oath they have taken. If you do not commit yourselves to the oath you have taken, you are breaching in this world. The punishment is going to be here and the hereafter. Yes. Because the rightly guarded caliphs, when they were in authority, they would refuse even bounties of war. They would refuse it. They would refuse it. There are women who have been reported to say, "No, my husband, wherever I need to know where you got this money from, otherwise I will not take it." So it also shows the role we women will play in supporting our husbands by reducing expectations, by reducing, the cost, everything. We want to buy a shoebi every day. We want to do this every day. Reduce these things. And then hold your husbands to accountable. To say, look, we are happier without this wealth. We are happier. You will be okay. You will be fine. Rather than acquiring wealth through questionable means, and then you now have to face the consequences. We see, a lot of humiliation taking place today in the society when you are being dragged before the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission or ICPC, or you are going to court. How do you explain that to your child?
In fact, Kisle, when Dr. Owasiu was talking about legislation, my mind was just running around as to what can happen when you bring that on the floor of the National Assembly. We're members of the National Assembly where there are Christians and Muslims, and these also constitute a major part of those who are also being indicted for one thing or the other in this country for several years and all of that. And considering the fact that in Nigeria we have mosques, churches, almost everywhere. Right. And when it comes to the issue of going to pilgrimages, to go and pray for Nigeria and all of that, we're also number one. Yes, right. But when it comes to cultivating the culture, of what we have learned, or the ethics of what we've learned, it is zero. So I'm wondering whether legislation can really do a thing here. But there's a question I wanted to ask Ajia, which has to do with some Muslims feel unhappy when Ramadan is coming to an end because they're going to lose, they've been clean all these days, and eventually it's going to be over. That they're expected to be longer so that they remain clean. Does it mean that there's this fear of stepping out of Ramadan, into the normal society, into the normal behavioral ways that we do things? So
I have that sense of loss too. I have that sense of loss. I wish Ramadan will continue. Yeah, because there is an ambience, there is an atmosphere that is so loving. Throughout Ramadan, a few of my friends say, I am not as rancorous I used to be. There is so much love. I even had a new daughter this Ramadan. I met her in the mosque, such a wonderful lady. We made new friends. As we were giving, we were receiving. I got so many gifts. We also gave. And you just wish we can all live our lives like that. But sadly, Ramadan ends, and the lessons end too. And it's unfortunate. The way we have lived in Ramadan, smiling with everybody, because smiling in Islam is charity, supporting everybody, being nice, being rancor-free, not quarrelsome, is the way we should live every day of our lives. So there is this sense of loss that Ramadan is over. We will try. I will make efforts to live the way I lived during Ramadan, hoping that, inshallah, by the time the next Ramadan comes, I wouldn't be as bad as I was before this Ramadan. I will be a step further and probably keep updating and stepping up in spirituality and my relationship with humanity. We've been doing a lot of community service during this Ramadan, and we hope it will continue after Ramadan.
All right, Hajia, thank you very much. That's why I want to bring in again Reverend Father Ahmed Silvanos. The feeling that Hajia just described now, it's also common amongst Christians. When Lent is coming to a close, usually the beginning is more challenging. Yeah. The beginning is more challenging, but once you stabilize, once you are cruise level, whether during Ramadan or during Lent, your body gets used to it. You will just discover that this cake that you used to whack, this chicken that you used to whack, you won't even be able to eat it. And then you're asking yourself, why was I loading myself with all of this? So, again, the question then arises, beyond this specific calendar, this month on the calendar, where we discipline ourselves, where we show love and charity, where we avoid gluttony and greed, how can we allow these virtues to permeate the rest of the calendar so that we have a more livable society?
You see, for us Catholics, the teachings of Lent do not begin in Lent, neither do they end in Lent. They are only amplified during Lent. 3 major things that are emphasized in the season of Lent are prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. The teaching on prayer does not begin and end in 40 days. Neither does the teaching on fasting or almsgiving, because basically our whole lives as religious people revolves around this tree. There is only a magnification of these teachings during this particular period. And emphasis usually during the season of Lent for us in the Catholic Church is that whatever it is that we are saying.
By the way, it is not only Catholics that observe Lent. I know that you're a Catholic priest, but the other denominations.
I understand that. Yes. I am just being particular.
Yes, okay.
We speak in general terms and then we also be particular. Now, the emphasis is that the things that we are doing during this period should not end when Lent is over, but that they should be continued even after. And just like Hajia said now, such that the next season, you are entering it better off than the previous one. Meaning that the previous season has helped you to improve. You have built on what you have done within that time, and now you are becoming better. So the whole practice of prayer, fasting, almsgiving, and all the other things we talk about during these seasons, they should permeate our entire life every single day. Why? Every day I meet with people, I should love them. I should be kind enough to help those who are in need. Every day I must have contact with my God, so I should pray. Morning, during the day, before I retire at night. You talked about greed. Fasting purifies us of greed. And when we fast, the things we deny ourselves of, we should commit to helping the less privileged, those who do not have. We should give out those things that we deny ourselves of. So if, for example, I denied myself of food, and then there is somebody living next to me who does not have food, I should be able to give what I have not eaten to that person. So it is something that should revolve, our lives should revolve around every day. It's not a practice for a season, it's a practice for the entire lifetime. And we are religious people who cannot be separated from the teachings of our faith. So we should not practice our religion for a time, it is for all times.
Under normal circumstances, to be honest with you, at least from what I've seen people do, you'll be fasting and be waiting, this fasting will end so that I have not been drinking. In fact, I'll start on Friday when the fasting is over. So, I'm just speaking based on what Reverend Father has just
is that what you do?
No. What I've observed people do. That's what I observe people do.
Because the way you are speaking,
let me say something here. Let me say something here. The thing is, fasting is a religious exercise, a spiritual exercise actually, whether for Christians or for Muslims. And there is always an aim. We don't just fast because we don't have food. That's hunger strike, not fasting. Fasting is that you have food, but you are not eating it. You have drinks, but you have chosen deliberately to stay away from them. That's fasting. And that's why it is called self-denial. You are denying yourself of something that you have free access to. Usually, if you can be in your house, for example, sometimes, and you say, you don't feel like eating, and you're not even hungry. 12 noon, and you're asking yourself, it's already afternoon, I've not even had breakfast. You're not feeling anything. But the day you say you want to fast,
that is where hunger. Why is it?
Is too far.
I'm sorry. Why is it always so? The day you say fasting wants to start, that your tummy will just open.
As early as 7 a.m. The hunger that will be dealing with you is like you've not eaten for 4 days.
Is it devil?
It's not psychological. It's not psychological. It's much more than just psychological. It's a spiritual challenge because you are setting out to do something that will improve your spirituality. And the devil will not just fold his arms and watch you. He will do everything to frustrate that effort.
Abdul, what's your thought on this?
The same. But you see, that's the normal thing.
What makes it normal that you get suddenly hungry when you want to say
because it's a reaction. It looks like a reaction, to that effort you want to make and why you must not make it. But the bottom line is that at the end of the day, you're able to overcome it, and you go ahead and fast. Now my question is this: if you can deny yourself your legitimate food, your legitimate drinks, for the sake of God Almighty, then what prompted you to now go and take what is not legitimate to you?
Doctor, why I raised that aspect of the conversation is because it's not just drinking, stealing, greed,
corruption,
and all of that.
Everything.
Let me have a break. Maybe
lies.
after the fasting, I'll still go back to my normal life.
I would say, the 30 days, you abstain from so much food, you abstain from all the drinks, all the things you used to do, you didn't die.
That's right.
Then what would
you didn't?
you
only, in fact, you looked better because all the things you were ingesting were actually toxic to your system. You look better. The system, medically, the system regenerates when you fast. Then you now ask yourself, if the good ones, abstaining from the good ones regenerated me, why did I even need the bad ones in the first instance?
Okay, that's why I want to bring in Chris Aguirre here. because we have come to a point where we begin to ask questions concerning Nigerians. Whenever things occur, we say, it's a Nigerian thing. Yeah. It's a Nigerian thinking way. It's a Nigerian, even our value system, everything says, no be Niger, and all of that. So, Chris, what is wrong?
Why our practical lifestyle is not in consonance with the details, right? I think it borders more on education, enlightenment, sensitization. I was talking with Dr. Abdul where we were seated there. I said, well, let me lightly accuse the affairs, the imams, and the pastors, the priests, and the reverends. To some extent, most of the teachings, all the time, the teachings are within the gatherings. Of course, though they go out to evangelize. But my take is this. Let us use these religious institutions and the sacredness and our strong belief in the details of our different religions. Let us use that medium in communicating the message, practical message of love, of patriotism, of care for your neighbor, of citizenship, of love, care, and concern for fellow citizens. Because beyond the issues raised, each time I wonder why our country, there are so much churches and mosques, and where we are. So, for me, either we're not communicating enough, or we're communicating in the wrong way. Since the churches and mosques, religion has strong, impactful, influence in us. Let us use them. Let us, design messages that will communicate through the same medium of churches, through the imams and the affairs and pastors and reverends, to the citizens on the need that, look, nobody lives in a vacuum. First, God has placed us in this country called Nigeria today. And of course, the goodness and well-being of Nigeria is, amounts to our own personal goodness and well-being. So,
should there be legislation on some of those issues? You think?
You can't legislate what people. There's a limit to what legislation can achieve.
Legislation is a different ballgame. Why it borders on education? Let me give you an example. In 2012, when the Flag Foundation of Nigeria introduced the Nigerian National Flag Day, on 2011, 2012 was the second edition. And Flag Day that day, which is 16th of September, happens to be on a Sunday. We now decided to organize a 3-day program. First, we started with the National Mosque. And during the Juma service, we approached the chief imam of the National Mosque, it's late now, and explained what we want to do. That we want to use the national flag as a medium of communication through the mosque, through the worshippers that day, to pass on to the message. Our theme for that day is reawakening our national consciousness. So using the national flag as a medium in reawakening national consciousness. That was the theme of the Flag Day for 2012. And he was taken aback. He now went on we discussed about the national flag. He told us that Islamic history proves that the color, our national colors, green and white, was the favorite color of Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him. Right? And then, interpreting the meaning of the colors, the white and the green. After lecturing us on that, he now gave us the permission. And that day, our members who are Muslims distributed 5,000 hand-held national flags to worshippers at the National Mosque here, with a small pamphlet, which we titled the Code of Patriotic Virtues for Nigerians. And of course, his message to worshippers that day centered on patriotism, centered on love for for the nation and your fellow citizens. And then, in other words, using that flag alone, the influence of the flag, how they take it, everybody paid attention, and the message was communicated. Unfortunately, due to challenges, finances, we're not able to continue in that tempo. But after that, he invited us, and of course, prayed for me and Dr. Hassan about what we were doing. And that a lot of worshippers came back to him and were asking him. In other words, the point I'm making is this. Let us use, because we're talking about nation building here, right? We're talking about nation building here. And though unfortunately, one way or the other, our country don't have a well-defined, articulated way of enlightening the citizens on their duties and responsibilities, the obligations, as well as their rights and privileges as citizens. Because whether Christians or Muslims, we occupy on this geographical entity called Nigeria. Just look at the state of the nation today. The insecurity, the Boko Haram, the bandits, the terrorists,
Kidnappers.
the kidnappers. I charge the Islamic scholars in Nigeria today, indeed every Muslim, is it to begin to spread the message against, of course they're all against, I mean, the average Nigerian, say our little children, if they see, like Alpha was, I mean, the doc, he was giving us an experience because of his looks. He was at a point almost being harassed as a Boko Haram, right? So the average, the image, when they see somebody dressed like that, it begins to ring as if it's Boko Haram or ISIS. That is more reason why, look, we should, as a society, as a geographical entity, as concerned citizens, as patrons, as those that claim to know, in this regard, as regards to the tenets of Islam, to begin to communicate more, reach out more. I was telling you of one little pamphlet I had that was given inside the Danfo bus about 20 years ago in Lagos, from Yaba to Butemeta. I have kept it till today. It was that day that I learned that Islam is a religion of peace. That caught my attention before ever studying it, as a student, studying philosophy. And then when they talk about Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. So it behoves on as Muslim scholars to begin to change the narrative. And of course, in everything that we do, in our public life, in our private life, in leadership positions, begin to exhibit that. Same thing with Christians. Otherwise, with this level of spiritual and religious consciousness, our country, our society ought not to be the way it is today.
All right, okay. Chris, Chris, thank you very much. Back again to the co-imam of the University of Abuja Muslim community. For 2019 Eid-el-Fitr, considering our national circumstance, what, in your opinion, amongst other issues that have been raised, are the major takeaways that ought to guide us through the rest of the calendar so that when next, we are at Ramadan, we'll be entering on a higher pedestal?
Yeah, thanks so much. One of the activities of Ramadan is the recitation of the Quran. And because Quran describes the month of Ramadan that Shahr Ramadan, alladhi unsila fihi al-Quran. This month of Ramadan is the month that Quran was actually revealed. And that book, it was mentioned there that it is meant for to serve as guidance to humanity. So my take is that Muslims must replicate the content of the Quran. Muslims must be a walking Quran. Must be, once you see him, you must see a replica of the content of the Quran. Now, but there's an aspect in the Quran that we are running away from. And there's no way you can run a society that will not see some people that will not want to comply. The issue of punishment and reward system, as contained in the Quran, we need to institutionalize it. Now, we've been seeing people on appointment, becoming minister, special advisor, but nobody contact us in the mosque or in the church to give the testimony about that person they want to. Yeah. So by the time you give us that responsibility, allow me to be to serve as a referee to somebody and see whether I will leave that person. So, but we don't know how they emerge. They just emerge and they say they are Muslim, they are Christian. At the end of the day, the pastors, the imams will be blamed for their conduct. And if you have contacted us, maybe that's not our best candidate that has passed through the teachings of the Quran or the Bible. So the point I'm making is that let us translate the content of the Quran into our public life. The way the Quran prohibits corruption. And let me tell you here, when you talk about corruption, the way Islam explains it, any take home after your legitimate salary, any work you are doing that has been salarized, anything you had to hit as per Islamic understanding is corruption. So, in other words, you don't go, so just like I just said, women need a role to, they have a very strong role to always challenge your husband, the source of his income. Yeah, you know your husband.
Why is it that everyone wants to be like the Joneses? Question is to you, Hajia.
If we continue this, that we're not going to end anytime soon.
Let her take the question. Kyria, let her take the question briefly.
The truth is that a lot of people set expectations that are not unrealistic. Everybody wants to be better than the other person without understanding the circumstances that have created what they are. Islam is not against entrepreneurship. Islam does not preach poverty. Islam does not say you cannot get rich. What Islam is telling you is you cannot get rich at all costs.
Okay, thank you. Thank you there. And let's listen to what other Nigerians are saying. We have some tweets here. First, we have Law Alpha C. The message of Eid-el-Fitr is of giving and sharing by all and sundry. Everyone has something to offer towards the unity and general progress of our country. And every Nigerian should ask themselves the positive rules and sacrifices they are making to ensure the unity and progress of this nation. They should emulate the moral rectitude of the president and his vice to correct the ills of the past.
And this is coming from T. Martins. I wish the Muslim faithful happy Salah and all the benefits accruing from the celebration. My encouragement to them is to take the love of all humanity in all that they do to foster our national unity. Barka de Salah, he writes.
All right, Dele Jack Solomon also started with Barka de Salah to all Muslim faithful the world over. Let all Nigerians use this Eid-el-Fitr celebration to live a life of grace, humility, and sacrifice, offering aid to the less privileged in the society and promote unity as part of building a strong and progressive Nigeria.
Muntana Farouk, I felicitate with Muslims for the successful accomplishment of Ramadan. May Allah accept it from us. Ameen. And Eid-el-Fitr Mubarak. I also urge the Muslims to sustain the tenets and the lessons learned during the month of Ramadan.
All right, now from Cecilia Okoroma, she says, happy Eid-el-Fitr to all. The sacrifices and self-denials that culminated into this day are meant to positively change our way of life.
Husseini Baba May tweets, as we observe the holy month alive and healthy, I wish every Muslim across the world peaceful Eid celebrations. May we see many more ahead. Thank you, and
all right,
God bless.
Gentlemen and lady, this is what we call it today of this discussion. And I'd like to thank Dr. Abdul Wazir Gabardine, the Department of Education and Guidance Counseling, University of Abuja. We thank you indeed for your insights this morning.
Thanks so much.
And of course, Ajia Rafat Salami, the women leader, Al Habibiyah Islamic Society. It's been a pleasure talking to you this morning. And then Reverend Father Ame Ejal Silvanos of the Catholic Archdiocese of Abuja. It's been wonderful listening to your contribution.
My pleasure, sir.
This edition. Thank you indeed. And Chris Aguirre, the Flag Foundation, Nigeria. Maybe on another platform we'll tell us more about the national flag. Yeah, thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Barka de Salah. Let us use religion to further enhance and strengthen our national unity.
All right, let's go to sports now.
20 Super Eagles stars named in the provisional roster for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations have reported at the Golden Tuple Hotel Asaba. 2 players on the books of the Premier League clubs, Leicester City midfielder Wilfred Ndidi and Chelsea central defender Kenneth Emero, joined the 18 players in camp, bringing the total number of players to 20 on Monday. The Ghana dress men will train in Asaba for 5 days before a friendly game against Zimbabwe at the Stephen Keshi Stadium on Saturday, June 8.